Sarah's life often felt like a whispered secret, unseen and unheard, even within the walls of her own home. She'd move through the sun-dappled rooms, the scent of fresh coffee lingering from a breakfast she'd prepared, and feel a profound sense of invisibility. Her husband, Mark, a kind but often preoccupied man, seemed to look right through her, his gaze landing instead on the morning newspaper, the television, or simply a distant point beyond her shoulder. This wasn't a sudden onset. It was a gradual fading, like a cherished photograph left too long in direct sunlight. You see her now, standing at the kitchen counter, a half-filled water glass in her hand. Her reflection in the window pane a faint, almost translucent outline. There's a quiet ache in her posture, a subtle droop to her shoulders that speaks volumes of unacknowledged presence. You'd never imagine what this woman has been through. This story will change how you see strength after 40. Before you dive into her story, hit like and subscribe if you believe in second chances. What unexpected turns have redefined your journey? Share your most inspiring personal transformations in the comments below. The house itself, a beautiful colonial with a sprawling garden, often felt like a stage where Sarah played a supporting role in a play about someone else's life. She managed the household, tended the garden with loving care, organized social events, and maintained a part-time remote job in graphic design. Yet, her contributions, her very essence, seemed to dissolve into the background noise of daily existence. Mark would commend the delicious dinner, but rarely the hours of planning and preparation. He'd admire the blooming roses, oblivious to the careful pruning and nurturing she'd poured into them. It wasn't malice, she knew, but rather a profound absence of acknowledgement, a silent dismissal that chipped away at her spirit, leaving her wrestling with a profound sense of being overlooked and the quiet ache of unfulfilled desire. This feeling of invisibility wasn't just about Mark. It began to seep into other areas of her life. At social gatherings, conversations would flow around her, not to her. Her opinions, when offered, seemed to evaporate into the air. It was as if she existed in a muted dimension, a shadow figure in a vibrant world. Human psychology dictates that validation and recognition are fundamental human needs, crucial for a healthy sense of self-worth. When these are consistently absent, even in loving relationships, the individual can begin to internalize that lack, leading to feelings of insignificance and profound loneliness. Sarah had always been a vibrant, creative spirit in her youth, full of laughter and bold ideas. But somewhere along the way, she had shrunk, becoming smaller, quieter, almost apologetic for her own existence. One crisp autumn morning, as she sat across from Mark at breakfast, a simple, yet intensely complex and utterly unexpected emotional moment occurred. He was engrossed in a financial report, occasionally grunting a response to her attempts at conversation. Sarah looked at her reflection in the polished surface of the antique dining table, seeing only a blurred outline. Suddenly, a jolt of something akin to quiet defiance surged through her. It wasn't anger, not yet, but a sharp, undeniable recognition of the injustice of it all. This wasn't how her life was meant to be. This wasn't the Sarah she knew she was deep down. The faint smell of his morning coffee, usually a comfort, suddenly seemed to highlight the chasm between them. A profound question began to form in her mind. Does true happiness always follow a grand plan? Or can it be found by radically rewriting the script of your own life, even when it feels too late? The sun streamed through the window, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air, seemingly more vibrant than her own presence. The initial, nagging feeling of invisibility slowly morphed into a deafening silence within the very heart of Sarah's marriage. The house, once filled with the imagined echoes of shared laughter and intimate whispers, now seemed to amplify the quiet disconnect between her and Mark. You see her now, moving through their spacious home, the familiar sounds of her own footsteps on the hardwood floors, or the gentle clinking of dishes in the sink, sounding remarkably loud in the absence of genuine conversation. It's a palpable stillness, heavy with unspoken words and unaddressed emotions. This section explores the deep emotional isolation and the dawning realization of a fundamental disconnect, a chasm that had widened almost imperceptibly over the years. Sarah would try, earnestly, to bridge the gap. She'd recount details of her day, share insights from a book she was reading, or even attempt lighthearted jokes. Mark would offer perfunctory nods, an occasional or that's nice, his eyes still glued to a screen or distant in thought. Their conversations became transactional, logistical updates about the house, their children, who are now grown and living independently, or upcoming appointments. The emotional give and take, the spontaneous sharing of thoughts and feelings that characterized intimacy, had withered away to almost nothing. It was like living with a perfectly polite roommate, not a life partner. You might even find yourself wondering, how long can a soul truly thrive in such emotional scarcity? The profound emotional isolation began to take its toll. Sarah felt a constant knot in her stomach, a subtle anxiety that never quite dissipated. She'd wake in the middle of the night, the silence of their bedroom pressing in on her, and feel an overwhelming loneliness, even with Mark breathing softly beside her. It's a profound observation that physical proximity does not guarantee emotional closeness. In fact, proximity without connection can sometimes make the feeling of isolation even more acute. Attachment theory in psychology posits that humans have an innate need for secure emotional bonds. When these bonds feel compromised, or when one partner feels consistently unseen, it can lead to significant emotional distress, akin to the feeling of being truly lost in a crowded room. One evening, Mark was engrossed in a football game, the roar of the crowd filling the living room. Sarah, attempting to engage, asked him about his day. He responded with a terse, "Fine," without even glancing away from the screen. In that moment, a complex and utterly unexpected emotional moment washed over her. It wasn't anger. It was a profound wave of clarity, cold and sharp. She saw their life, not as a partnership, but as two parallel lines, running side by side but never truly intersecting. The realization hit her with the force of a physical blow. She wasn't just feeling invisible in her marriage. She was invisible to her marriage. The air in the room suddenly felt thick, heavy with this unspoken truth, and the scent of popcorn from Mark's bowl seemed ridiculously out of place. This dawning realization was terrifying, yet also strangely liberating. It meant acknowledging a painful truth, but it also opened the possibility for change. What truly defines a marriage? Is it merely a legal contract and shared space? Or is it a vibrant, ongoing connection of two souls? As the shouts from the television filled the room, Sarah looked at Mark, his face illuminated by the flickering blue light, and knew, with a quiet certainty, that something had to shift. The silence had become too loud to ignore. The stark, almost deafening silence of her marriage had finally pushed Sarah to the precipice of realization. It was a terrifying truth, but also, paradoxically, a tiny crack in the suffocating wall of invisibility. Then, a spark ignited within her, almost imperceptible at first, like the faint glow of a dying ember suddenly catching a breath of air. It wasn't a dramatic epiphany, but a gentle nudge born from a seemingly insignificant encounter. You see her now, a subtle shift in her posture, a barely discernible glint in her eyes, hinting at a long-dormant desire for personal fulfillment stirring back to life. This theme emphasizes the subtle awakening of inner strength and nascent hope, a quiet rebellion against the emotional stagnation. The catalyst arrived in the form of a forgotten art exhibit poster tucked away in an old drawer. Sarah had once dreamed of being an art curator, a passion she'd quietly set aside after marriage and children, replaced by the practicalities of domestic life and a stable but uninspiring remote graphic design job. The poster, a vibrant splash of color against the faded wood of the drawer, featured a local gallery opening. The artist, a woman named Lena Carmichael, was known for her bold, expressive portraits, capturing the essence of her subjects. Lena was also, Sarah noted with a faint surprise, a woman clearly over 40, her age only adding to the power of her work. Simply holding the poster, feeling the slightly textured paper, the scent of aged ink, stirred something deep within Sarah. It was a whisper of the vibrant, curious woman she used to be, before the slow fade. This was a profound observation. Sometimes the past holds the key to the future, not by repeating it, but by reminding us of who we once were and who we might yet become. Cognitive psychology suggests that engaging with familiar, long-abandoned passions can reactivate neural pathways associated with pleasure and purpose, effectively reigniting motivation. It's a kind of emotional muscle memory. Driven by an inexplicable impulse, Sarah decided to attend the gallery opening. She slipped in quietly, feeling a familiar twinge of social awkwardness. The gallery was bustling, filled with vibrant conversation and the rich aroma of coffee and newly applied paint. As she stood before one of Lena Carmichael's portraits, a striking depiction of an older woman with eyes full of quiet defiance, a complex and utterly unexpected emotional moment washed over her. It wasn't just admiration for the art, it was a profound sense of recognition. She saw herself in the subject's eyes, the subtle strength, the untold stories, the quiet bravery. A tear pricked at her own eyes, not of sadness, but of a fierce, desperate yearning to be seen, to be known, just like the woman in the painting. The jazz music playing softly in the background seemed to swell, filling the space with a hopeful melody. Later, she found herself chatting with Lena Carmichael herself, drawn in by the artist's warm, earthy laugh. Sarah, uncharacteristically, found herself sharing a flicker of her own past artistic inclinations. Lena listened intently, her eyes kind and unwavering. "It's never too late, my dear," Lena said, her voice a low, encouraging murmur. "The canvas is always waiting." Her words, simple yet profound, resonated deeply within Sarah's soul. What truly defines an awakening? Is it a sudden, dramatic revelation, or a series of gentle nudges, each one strengthening a nascent resolve? As Sarah walked home that evening, the crisp night air invigorating her, the spark within her heart glowed a little brighter, a quiet promise for a future she was just beginning to imagine. With the spark of forgotten passion reignited, Sarah tentatively began to revisit an old hobby, a hesitant dance back into a past life. She dusted off her old sketchbooks, their pages smelling faintly of graphite and forgotten dreams. Her fingers, accustomed to the precise clicks of a mouse for graphic design, felt clumsy at first as they gripped a charcoal stick. You see her now, hunched over a blank page, her brow furrowed in concentration, a mixture of excitement and trepidation in her posture. This theme focuses on quiet joy and the exploration of lost interests, a tentative re-engagement with the parts of herself that had been silenced for so long. Her old art supplies, tucked away in a forgotten box in the attic, were a treasure trove of memories. The faint scent of oil paint, the smooth coolness of a palette knife, the varied textures of watercolor paper. These sensory details transported her back to a time when creativity flowed freely, when her self-expression wasn't inhibited by the unspoken demands of her marriage. She remembered long afternoons spent in art classes, the quiet camaraderie with fellow students, the sheer joy of bringing an image to life on canvas. It was a profound observation that sometimes the most profound forms of self-care involve revisiting the very activities that once brought us unadulterated joy. Initially, her attempts felt rusty, her strokes hesitant. The perfectionism that had plagued her earlier attempts at art resurfaced, a nagging voice telling her it wasn't good enough. But this time, something was different. The simple act of creating, of moving charcoal across paper, brought a quiet comfort, a solace that transcended the quality of the output. It was the process itself that mattered, the act of engagement, the reclaiming of a piece of her soul. This gentle re-engagement allowed her to tap into her innate creativity, a wellspring of inner peace. The concept of flow state in psychology describes a mental state in which a person performing an activity is fully immersed in a feeling of energized focus, full involvement, and enjoyment in the process of the activity. Sarah, even in these early, clumsy attempts, began to experience glimpses of this. One rainy afternoon, as she sketched a simple still life of a teacup and a wilting flower, a complex and utterly unexpected emotional moment occurred. The rain drummed gently against the window pane, a soothing rhythm. She wasn't focused on perfection, but on the delicate curve of the teacup, the fading beauty of the petals. Suddenly, a feeling of deep, quiet contentment washed over her, a sense of being truly present and alive, unburdened by the usual anxieties of her life. It was a fleeting moment of pure, unadulterated joy, a taste of a self she had thought lost forever. A subtle smile touched her lips, a smile she hadn't seen in her own reflection for far too long. Mark, bless his oblivious heart, barely noticed her new pursuit. If he did, he simply assumed she was keeping busy. This unintentional freedom from scrutiny allowed Sarah the space to explore without pressure, a subtle irony that the very invisibility she resented now offered her a strange form of liberation. What truly defines self-discovery? Is it a grand epiphany, or the quiet, consistent act of returning to the things that make your spirit sing, piece by piece? As the rain continued its gentle patter, Sarah continued to sketch, her heart filling with a soft, burgeoning hope, a sense of something vibrant and new taking root within her. As Sarah's tentative steps towards self-reclamation continued, she soon encountered the subtle, often unspoken barriers that had long held her captive. It wasn't overt opposition from Mark. It was far more insidious, a pervasive atmosphere of mild disinterest and routine that subtly undermined her burgeoning resolve. You see her now, a slight hesitation in her movements, a flicker of doubt in her eyes as she grapples with these unseen obstacles and the deep-seated fear of change. This section explores internal and external obstacles, emphasizing how deeply ingrained patterns can resist even the smallest shifts. The first barrier was the sheer inertia of their established life. Every morning, Mark's predictable routine, coffee, newspaper, work, created an unspoken expectation that Sarah would seamlessly support it. Her desire to spend an extra hour sketching or to attend a pottery class felt like a disruption to this well-oiled machine. There was no explicit disapproval, but a subtle tightening of Mark's jaw, a longer silence, a dismissive wave of his hand. These weren't arguments, but they were powerful deterrents, social cues that whispered, "Don't rock the boat." It's a profound observation that sometimes the most rigid structures are not those enforced by rules, but by unspoken expectations. Internally, Sarah wrestled with her own doubts. A voice, familiar and insidious, would echo in her mind. Is this selfish? Am I abandoning my responsibilities? Is it even worth it? These were the echoes of years of putting others first, of prioritizing the perceived needs of her family over her own desires. This self-doubt, a form of learned helplessness, is a powerful psychological phenomenon where individuals, after experiencing prolonged periods of non-control, begin to believe they have no control over their situation, even when opportunities for change arise. It makes starting over, even with small steps, feel like climbing a mountain, She recalls a day when she was excitedly telling Mark about a new painting technique she'd learned. He listened, distractedly, then interjected. "Did you remember to schedule the sprinkler repair?" The question, perfectly valid on its own, felt like a cold splash of water, instantly extinguishing her enthusiasm. It was a unique, complex, and utterly unexpected emotional moment. Not anger, but a profound, deflating sense of being unheard, of her inner world being utterly irrelevant. The vibrant colors she'd just been describing in her mind faded to gray. The bitter scent of unfulfilled expectations hung in the air. This subtle resistance, both external and internal, forced Sarah to confront her own fear of change. What would happen if she pushed back? What if Mark reacted negatively? What if she failed? The comfort of the familiar, even if it was tinged with unhappiness, was a powerful pull. Yet, the longing for something more, for a life where she felt truly seen and alive, was growing stronger, a persistent hum beneath the surface of her apprehension. She found herself looking at old photographs of herself, vibrant and unapologetic in her youth, wondering if that version of her still existed. What truly fuels change when inertia feels like an unbreakable force? Is it sheer willpower, or the slow, insistent whisper of a soul refusing to be silenced? As the days unfolded, Sarah realized that overcoming these unseen barriers would require more than just desire. It would demand a quiet but unwavering resolve. The subtle resistances, both internal and external, had tested Sarah's burgeoning resolve, but they hadn't extinguished it. Instead, they sharpened her focus, leading to a quiet act of rebellion. It began not with a grand declaration, but with a small, deliberate choice that asserted her individuality, a subtle act of defiance against the unspoken norms of her marriage. You see her now, a newfound firmness in her posture, a quiet determination radiating from her as she prepares for this small but significant shift. This theme emphasizes quiet bravery and personal agency, the understanding that reclaiming oneself often starts with a single, courageous step. Her first act was to change her work schedule. For years, she had adapted her part-time graphic design hours to perfectly align with Mark's unpredictable work demands, always ensuring she was available for him, for the house, for whatever mundane task arose. Now, she consciously shifted 2 of her workdays to be fully dedicated to her personal artistic pursuits, even if it meant less flexibility for Mark's impromptu requests. She informed her remote clients, calmly and professionally, that these hours were now blocked out. When Mark, with his usual subtle dismissiveness, questioned her new rigid schedule, she simply met his gaze, calmly stating, "These are my creative hours. They are important to me." No apology, no lengthy explanation, just a clear boundary. The unexpected firmness in her voice seemed to surprise even herself. This small boundary setting was a profound observation. True personal agency often manifests not in grand gestures of rebellion, but in the consistent, quiet acts of self-assertion. It's about recognizing your own needs and making choices to honor them, even when it feels uncomfortable. Psychological research on self-determination theory suggests that autonomy, competence, and relatedness are fundamental human needs. Sarah's shift was a direct embrace of her need for autonomy, a crucial step toward her psychological well-being. The air in the room, usually thick with Mark's unspoken expectations, felt a little lighter, a little more breathable. One Tuesday morning, as Mark left for work, Sarah found herself not immediately diving into household chores or client work, but walking directly to her easel in the sunroom. The sunlight streamed through the windows, bathing the room in a warm, golden glow. As she prepared her paints, the familiar scent of oil and canvas filling the air, a complex and utterly unexpected emotional moment washed over her. It was a profound sense of liberation, a quiet thrill of choosing herself, for herself, after so many years. She wasn't seeking permission. She was simply being. A small, triumphant smile played on her lips as she picked up her brush, the canvas before her suddenly feeling like a vast, open possibility. Mark, predictably, continued his routine, often oblivious to the nuanced changes unfolding in Sarah. He might notice she was busy in the sunroom, but the true significance of her solitude, her creative pursuit, remained beyond his perception. This unwitting space allowed Sarah to blossom without the weight of his judgment or expectations, a strange, almost ironic gift from his continued invisibility. What truly constitutes bravery in the quiet confines of a marriage? Is it shouting your needs, or the silent, persistent act of reclaiming your own space, your own time, your own soul, one brushstroke at a time? As the colors bloomed on her canvas, Sarah felt a quiet strength solidifying within her, knowing this was just the beginning. The quiet act of rebellion, the reclaiming of her artistic time, slowly began to open doors Sarah hadn't realized were locked. With her schedule now firmly dedicated to her creative pursuits, she found herself seeking connection beyond the familiar, yet isolating, confines of her marriage. You see her now, stepping cautiously but with growing confidence into new spaces, eager to find new voices and new perspectives. This section explores the power of external validation and connection, illustrating how broadening one's social circle can profoundly reshape self-perception and provide much-needed solace. Her art, once a solitary endeavor, beckoned her towards community. She enrolled in an advanced watercolor workshop at a local art center, a place buzzing with creative energy and the earthy scent of clay and wet paper. The initial nervousness was palpable. She hadn't been in a group setting solely for herself in years. But the warmth of the instructor, a jovial woman named Helen, and the shared passion with fellow students quickly dissolved her apprehension. She found herself discussing color theory, brush techniques, and the challenges of capturing light, engaged in conversations that truly stimulated her mind and spirit. In this workshop, Sarah met Clara, a retired librarian with a mischievous twinkle in her eye and an encyclopedic knowledge of art history. Clara became an unexpected confidant, a woman who listened with genuine interest, offering insights that resonated deeply. They'd linger after class, sipping lukewarm coffee, discussing everything from the nuances of light in a landscape painting to the complexities of midlife. It was a profound observation that sometimes the most validating connections come from unexpected sources, from those who see you not for your roles, but for your intrinsic self. The psychological concept of social support highlights how strong social networks can buffer stress, improve coping mechanisms, and significantly enhance overall well-being. For Sarah, this burgeoning friendship was a lifeline. One afternoon, as Sarah showed Clara a particularly challenging watercolor she was working on, detailing a stormy seascape, Clara leaned in, her eyes scrutinizing the subtle washes of blue and gray. "You really capture the feeling of the ocean, Sarah," she said, her voice soft but firm. "It's not just a picture, it's an emotion. You're truly a storyteller with your brush." It was a unique, complex, and utterly unexpected emotional moment. Sarah had never considered her art that way, had never received such specific, heartfelt praise for her creative voice. A warmth spread through her chest, a feeling of being seen and understood that was both exhilarating and profoundly healing. The gentle splashing sound from the nearby fountain in the art center seemed to underscore the fluidity of her renewed artistic expression. These new friendships, these fresh perspectives, acted like a mirror, reflecting back to Sarah a version of herself she had almost forgotten, a talented, insightful, and vibrant woman. They offered validation that was absent in her marriage, bolstering her confidence and reinforcing the belief that her inner world mattered. What truly allows a person to thrive when they've felt diminished for so long? Is it simply self-will, or the powerful affirmation found in the eyes and words of others who genuinely see and appreciate you? As the weeks passed, Sarah found herself looking forward to these connections, each one a step further out of the shadows and into a life filled with new voices and invigorating possibilities. Fortified by newfound friendships and the quiet strength drawn from her art, Sarah felt a subtle shift within her, a burgeoning courage to confront the silence that had long defined her marriage. This wasn't about anger or blame. It was about desperate hope for connection, a yearning to be heard. You see her now, a knot of apprehension in her stomach, yet her gaze holds a flicker of quiet determination as she prepares to voice the unspoken. This theme focuses on vulnerable courage and difficult conversations, acknowledging the immense bravery it takes to articulate long-held pain to someone you love. She chose an evening when Mark was relaxed, not engrossed in work or sports. They were sitting in the living room, a soft lamp casting warm light, a rare moment of quiet stillness between them. The scent of her jasmine tea mingled with the faint, familiar scent of old paper from Mark's book. "Mark," she began, her voice a little shaky at first. "Can we talk? Really talk?" He lowered his book, a slight furrow in his brow, a subtle sign of his mild annoyance at the interruption. This immediate, almost reflexive reaction was a painful reminder of the pattern she desperately wanted to break. Sarah took a deep breath. I feel like I've become invisible in our marriage," she said, the words surprisingly difficult to articulate, yet once spoken, they hung in the air, heavy with years of unaddressed longing. "It feels like you often look right through me, or that my thoughts, my day, my passions, they don't matter to you." She watched his face carefully, searching for a sign of understanding, a flicker of recognition. She didn't raise her voice. Her tone was soft, almost pleading, filled with a vulnerability she hadn't shown him in years. Communication theory posits that effective communication requires not just speaking, but active listening and genuine empathy, something that had been conspicuously absent in their dynamic. Mark's initial reaction was defensive, a subtle turning away, a slight tightening of his lips. "Invisible? Sarah, that's ridiculous. You're here. We live together. What are you talking about?" His response, though predictable, was a complex and utterly unexpected emotional moment for Sarah. It wasn't outright anger, but a dismissive bafflement that cut her more deeply than any sharp retort. It was the confirmation of his complete unawareness, the stark reality of how truly disconnected they had become. A wave of profound sadness washed over her, chilling her to the bone. The soft ticking of the grandfather clock in the hall seemed to underscore the glacial pace of his understanding. She pushed past the sting. "It's not about being physically present, Mark. It's about feeling seen, heard, valued. I feel like I've lost my voice, lost myself, in this marriage, because I'm constantly adapting to you, and you're not seeing me." She spoke slowly, deliberately, trying to articulate the nuanced pain of emotional neglect. Mark shifted uncomfortably, his gaze flickering around the room, avoiding her eyes. He mumbled something about being busy, about stress from work, about things being fine. He offered no empathy, no genuine inquiry, no bridge across the chasm. What truly defines a conversation? Is it merely the exchange of words, or the unspoken meeting of hearts and minds, a mutual willingness to truly hear and understand? As the silence descended again, thicker and heavier than before, Sarah knew, with a chilling certainty, that this conversation, while brave on her part, had revealed a deeper, more profound chasm than she had ever imagined. The difficult conversation with Mark, or rather, the stark lack of one, served as a painful revelation for Sarah. His dismissive bafflement, his inability to truly hear her, exposed the deeper, systemic issues within their marriage. You see her now, sitting alone in her sunroom, the vibrant colors of her latest painting mocking the muted tones of her internal landscape. The quiet calm that had settled after her bold act of speaking up quickly dissolved, replaced by a chilling clarity. Their parallel lives were not just running side by side, they were diverging and had been for a very long time. This section explores the complexities of long-standing relational patterns and the dawning realization of fundamental incompatibilities, forcing Sarah to consider a profound shift in her life's path. She replayed the conversation in her mind, dissecting every mumbled word, every averted glance from Mark. His responses were not malicious, but they were profoundly narcissistic in their disregard, entirely focused on his perception and comfort, completely blind to her emotional reality. It was a pattern she now recognized, a subtle erosion over decades where her needs, her desires, her very self had consistently been relegated to the background. The profound observation settled in her heart. When one person is consistently unheard, the relationship isn't truly a partnership. It's a silent monologue. This realization, though heartbreaking, was undeniably powerful. The emotional impact of this non-response was devastating. It wasn't just a failed conversation. It was the crumbling of a foundation she had always believed, however dimly, still existed. She had hoped for understanding, for a glimmer of acknowledgement, for a chance to rebuild. Instead, she was met with a blank wall. It was a unique, complex, and utterly unexpected emotional moment, a wave of profound grief, not for a lost love, but for a lost possibility. The future she had always vaguely imagined, a slow, comfortable aging with Mark, perhaps finally finding deeper connection in retirement, evaporated like mist. The silence in the room was not peaceful. It was heavy with the weight of shattered illusions. Even the vibrant scent of her oil paints seemed to fade in contrast to the emotional desolation. Sarah began to scrutinize their entire relationship, looking at it through this new, stark lens. The subtle ways her dreams had been dismissed, her opinions overlooked, her efforts taken for granted. She saw the long-standing relational patterns, Mark's preoccupation, her consistent accommodation. It was a painful inventory, but a necessary one. Attachment theory, again, sheds light on this. When one partner consistently fails to provide a secure base or emotional responsiveness, the other partner's attachment needs go unmet, leading to a breakdown in intimacy and trust. For Sarah, this breakdown was now undeniable. What truly defines the end of a chapter, even when there's no dramatic explosion, no shouting match? Is it the culmination of grand conflicts, or the quiet, undeniable realization that two souls are simply moving in irrevocably different directions? As the sun set, casting long, melancholic shadows across her canvas, Sarah looked at her painting, a vibrant, untamed landscape. It mirrored the wild, unexplored territory of her own future, a path she was now, with a trembling heart, beginning to realize she might have to walk alone. The familiar comfort of the house suddenly felt like a cage, and the thought of breaking free, while terrifying, held a nascent, powerful pull. The profound realization of her marriage's irreparable disconnect, born from the silence of that failed conversation, propelled Sarah towards an inevitable, terrifying decision, stepping into the unknown. You see her now, a delicate balance of fear and fierce resolve in her eyes, as she prepares to redefine her personal space and living situation. This is not a flight from pain, but a tangible step towards a more authentic existence, a brave leap into the future she is now determined to build for herself. This theme emphasizes decisive action and the fear of starting over, yet clinging to hope, a testament to her quiet bravery. The first practical step was finding a new place. The idea of leaving the home she had shared with Mark for decades was daunting, filled with the ghosts of past memories, both good and faded. Yet, the thought of staying, of continuing to exist in that profound state of invisibility, was far more terrifying. She started discreetly browse online listings, drawn to smaller, sun-filled apartments with ample natural light, spaces that felt like a blank canvas, waiting for her own story to be painted onto their walls. The scent of her own hopeful ambition mingled with the nervous tang of uncertainty. The sheer logistics of separating her life from Mark's felt overwhelming. Decades of shared possessions, intertwined finances, and established routines. It was a mountain to climb, and a familiar wave of self-doubt would occasionally creep in, whispering, "Can you really do this, Sarah? Are you strong enough?" But each time, the memory of Mark's blank stare, the chilling realization of her emotional erasure, would fuel her determination. This was not just about changing addresses. It was about reclaiming her very essence. Psychological research on resilience often highlights the importance of self-efficacy, the belief in one's own capacity to succeed in specific situations. For Sarah, each small step in this daunting process was building her self-efficacy, proving to herself that she was capable. One crisp morning, as she walked through a charming, sunlit apartment she was considering, imagining her easel by the window, her books on the shelves, a unique, complex, and utterly unexpected emotional moment washed over her. It wasn't a dramatic surge of joy, but a quiet, profound sense of belonging. This space, small and unfurnished, felt more like home than the large house she shared with Mark. It was a space solely for her, where she could finally exhale and truly be. A profound calm settled over her, a knowing that this was the right, albeit terrifying path. The gentle hum of distant city traffic sounded like a soft murmur of anticipation. Making the actual decision to inform Mark was another hurdle. There was no anger, no recrimination, just a quiet, firm statement of her intention to move out. His reaction was, predictably, a mix of disbelief and vague hurt, but notably, still no true understanding of the emotional vacuum that had led her to this point. His question, "But why, Sarah? Things are fine," only underscored the chasm between them. What truly allows a soul to find courage in the face of immense fear of the unknown? Is it a sudden burst of bravery, or the slow, steady accumulation of small, resolute acts, each one building on the last? As Sarah signed the lease on her new apartment, the ink firm on the paper, she felt a tremor of fear, but beneath it, a powerful, burgeoning hope, a sense of a vibrant new life unfolding before her. Stepping into the unknown was terrifying, but it was also exhilarating. Sarah's brave decision to leave the marital home propelled her into a new phase, actively building her own sanctuary. You see her now, surrounded by moving boxes, yet her eyes are alight with a focused energy, meticulously curating a new environment, both physical and emotional, that truly nurtures her evolving self. This section explores the practical aspects of self-creation and the profound joy of personal autonomy, a vibrant contrast to the muted existence she had known. Her new apartment, smaller and bathed in natural light, became her personal canvas. The first thing she set up was her easel, positioning it by the largest window, where the sun poured in, illuminating her workspace. The faint scent of her old oil paints, now mingled with the fresh smell of her newly painted walls, was intoxicating. She chose a palette of soft blues and greens for the bedroom, creating a tranquil oasis, and vibrant yellows and oranges for the living area, infusing it with warmth and energy. Every choice, from the placement of a favorite armchair to the selection of new curtains, was deliberate, a manifestation of her reawakened self. It was a profound observation. Our physical spaces often mirror our internal landscapes. By creating a harmonious external environment, we can foster internal peace. Unpacking the boxes was more than just organizing possessions. It was a process of thoughtful curation. She meticulously decided what to keep, what to let go of, and what to repurpose. Old photographs of her and Mark, once displayed prominently, were now stored away, not out of malice, but out of a conscious choice to focus on her present and future. She brought out treasured art books, old journals filled with youthful dreams, and quirky pieces of pottery she'd collected over the years, all items that Mark had largely ignored. These sensory details, the smooth feel of a ceramic vase, the crisp pages of an art book, became anchors, grounding her in her new reality. You might even say she was conducting an archaeological dig into her own forgotten self. The joy of personal autonomy permeated every decision. There was no need to consult, no subtle resistance to navigate. She could listen to her favorite jazz music as loud as she pleased while she painted, or leave her art supplies scattered across the table without a single word of disapproval. This freedom, initially overwhelming, quickly became intoxicating. It's a unique, complex, and utterly unexpected emotional moment when she realizes she can simply be messy, be loud, be herself, without explanation or apology. A deep, settling calm washes over her, a feeling of finally inhabiting her own skin in her own space. This sense of liberation is powerfully therapeutic. Psychologically, having a sense of control over one's environment is crucial for mental well-being, reducing stress, and fostering a sense of mastery. Her friend, Clara, visited often, bringing small housewarming gifts and endless encouragement. "This isn't just an apartment, Sarah," Clara remarked, looking around the sun-drenched living room. "It's a declaration, your own personal renaissance." Her words resonated deeply, articulating the unspoken truth Sarah was feeling. What truly defines a fresh start? Is it simply a change of scenery, or the courageous act of shedding old skins to reveal a truer, more vibrant self? As the days unfolded, filled with the hum of her own creativity and the quiet satisfaction of making her new house a home, Sarah understood that this sanctuary wasn't just a place. It was a state of being, a testament to her unwavering commitment to herself. With her new sanctuary established and a sense of personal autonomy blossoming, Sarah truly began to compose the symphony of herself. You see her now, not merely existing, but thriving, finding a harmonious balance between the responsibilities of her part-time work and the rich, unfolding landscape of her personal desires. This theme emphasizes profound personal growth and self-acceptance, illustrating a life lived fully and authentically, where every note contributes to a vibrant melody. Her days, once dictated by an unspoken obligation to Mark's rhythms, now flowed with an organic grace. Mornings began with dedicated time for painting or writing in her journal, soaking in the sunlight that poured into her new studio space. The scent of her morning coffee, brewed exactly to her liking, was a small, consistent comfort. Her remote graphic design work, no longer feeling like a necessary evil, became another outlet for her creativity. She approached client projects with renewed enthusiasm, applying her artistic eye in ways she hadn't before, finding unexpected satisfaction in the fusion of commercial design and personal expression. This dynamic balance, once seemingly impossible, now felt effortless, a testament to the power of aligning one's actions with one's true desires. Even mundane tasks, like grocery shopping or meal preparation, became small acts of self-care. She experimented with new recipes, savoring the vibrant colors of fresh produce and the aromatic spices. The kitchen, once a place of routine, transformed into a space for culinary creativity. She found subtle humor in her newfound freedom, occasionally buying an entire bag of her favorite exotic fruit, knowing there was no one to question her indulgent purchase or dismiss it as unnecessary. This liberation from subtle judgment, however small, was profoundly freeing. The concept of self-compassion in psychology involves treating oneself with kindness and understanding, especially during difficult times or when facing imperfections. Sarah was, perhaps unknowingly, practicing profound self-compassion by honoring her own needs and desires. Her social life, once constricted, expanded beautifully. She continued her art classes, fostering deeper connections with Clara and other fellow artists. They'd visit galleries, discuss art history, and simply enjoy each other's company, sharing stories and laughter. These friendships, built on shared interests and mutual respect, provided a rich tapestry of emotional support. One evening, after an inspiring gallery visit, Sarah and Clara sat at a small cafe, sipping herbal tea. A complex and utterly unexpected emotional moment washed over Sarah. It was a feeling of profound, unadulterated joy, a lightness she hadn't felt in years, recognizing that this vibrant, connected life was entirely her own creation. The gentle clinking of teacups and the low murmur of conversation in the cafe created a soothing background symphony. She learned to say no, graciously but firmly, to requests that didn't align with her newfound priorities, without guilt or apology. This newfound assertiveness wasn't aggressive. It was simply a clear articulation of her boundaries. What truly defines a life well lived in midlife? Is it the adherence to societal expectations, or the courageous pursuit of personal authenticity, orchestrating a unique melody of purpose and joy? As the seasons turned, bringing with them the golden hues of autumn, Sarah's life unfolded like a beautifully composed piece of music, each note a testament to her profound self-acceptance and the vibrant symphony of her liberated self. Sarah's internal transformation began to manifest outwardly, subtly at first, then undeniably. You see her now, radiating authenticity, her quiet strength and the vibrant joy she now exudes becoming evident to those around her. She had, without consciously trying, become a beacon of inspiration, a testament to the profound possibilities of reinvention after 40. This section highlights the ultimate triumph of the human spirit and inspirational undertones, demonstrating how personal growth can create a ripple effect, quietly empowering others. Her art, once a private solace, began to gain recognition. The pieces she created in her sunlit apartment, infused with a newfound depth and freedom, caught the eye of her art instructor, Helen, who encouraged her to participate in a local community art show. Sarah hesitated, the old fear of judgment briefly resurfacing. But the encouragement from Helen and Clara, coupled with her own burgeoning confidence, propelled her forward. Her paintings, vibrant and emotionally resonant, particularly her portraits of ordinary women infused with extraordinary inner light, drew considerable attention. The scent of freshly brewed coffee filled the air of the gallery, mingling with the subtle aroma of canvas and paint. At the art show, people lingered before her pieces, drawn in by the authenticity and vulnerability in her brushstrokes. Many commented on the life in her work, the way her art seemed to tell a story. This recognition, public and heartfelt, was a unique, complex, and utterly unexpected emotional moment. It wasn't about ego. It was a profound validation of her voice, her perspective, her existence, finally seen and appreciated by a wider audience. Tears welled in her eyes, not of sadness, but of overwhelming gratitude and a deep sense of alignment. It was as if the world was finally mirroring back the vibrant woman she had become. Her story, whispered among her new friends and acquaintances, began to spread. Women, often around her age, would approach her cautiously, sharing their own feelings of invisibility or stagnation in their lives. Sarah would listen with profound empathy, offering not advice, but shared understanding and quiet encouragement. She spoke of the importance of finding one's inner spark, of taking small, brave steps, and of the power of self-compassion. Psychological research on social learning theory suggests that individuals learn by observing others. Sarah, through simply living her authentic life, became a powerful role model, inadvertently teaching others how to reclaim their own narratives. She even found herself reconnecting with some old acquaintances from her former life, people who noticed the profound shift in her demeanor. "Sarah, you look different, happier. What's your secret?" they'd ask, a hint of curiosity in their voices. Sarah would simply smile, her eyes sparkling. There was no secret, only courage, resilience, and the relentless pursuit of her own truth. What truly empowers others? Is it eloquent speeches or the quiet, undeniable evidence of a life lived authentically and with joy, illuminating the path for those who are still searching? As the sun set, casting long, peaceful shadows, Sarah knew her journey wasn't just her own. It was a testament to the beautiful, unstoppable force of a woman embracing her true self, inspiring hope wherever her light touched. With her self-mastery firmly established and her authenticity radiating outwards, Sarah found herself embracing a new kind of love. It wasn't the romantic kind, not yet, but a profound self-love that had blossomed from the rich soil of her journey. You see her now, utterly at peace with herself, confident in her own worth, and cautiously open to the possibility of new, healthier relationships, built on mutual respect and genuine visibility. This theme explores the power of self-love and the quiet possibility of new connections, highlighting that true happiness begins from within. Her days were filled with purpose and quiet joy. She continued to create art, not for recognition, but for the sheer pleasure of expression. Her apartment, her sanctuary, hummed with a vibrant energy that reflected her inner peace. She cherished her friendships, finding deep fulfillment in the reciprocal nature of these connections, where she was seen, heard, and valued for who she truly was. The aroma of her favorite essential oils often filled her living space, adding to the serene atmosphere she cultivated. This constant nurturing of her inner world had created a magnetic quality, a quiet confidence that drew others to her. The concept of self-love, once an abstract idea, was now a lived reality for Sarah. She treated herself with the same kindness and understanding she would offer a dear friend. This meant prioritizing her well-being, honoring her creative impulses, and setting firm boundaries when necessary, without guilt. She learned that true love, in any form, begins with a deep appreciation and acceptance of oneself. Self-compassion research in positive psychology demonstrates that cultivating self-kindness, mindfulness, and a sense of common humanity, recognizing that suffering is part of the human experience, significantly boosts emotional well-being and resilience. For Sarah, this was the foundational love from which all other positive connections could grow. One sunny afternoon, while attending a local author's reading at a charming independent bookstore, she found herself in a casual conversation with a man named James, a retired literature professor with kind eyes and a gentle demeanor. Their discussion flowed easily, from the nuances of the book to broader topics of life and purpose. He listened intently when she spoke, his gaze steady and genuinely interested, a stark contrast to the distant stares she was accustomed to. It was a unique, complex, and utterly unexpected emotional moment for Sarah. Not a sudden rush of romance, but a quiet, profound sense of being truly seen and heard, perhaps for the very first time in years, by a man who wasn't her husband. The subtle scent of old books and freshly brewed coffee in the bookstore filled the air, lending an air of comfortable familiarity to the unexpected encounter. There was no pressure, no expectation, just an easy, comfortable connection. They exchanged contact information, a tentative step into a new possibility. Sarah felt a quiet optimism, not a desperate need for a relationship, but a gentle openness to whatever the future might hold. What truly defines new beginnings in midlife? Is it solely the dramatic breakup, or the quiet, confident reemergence of a soul ready to receive love, starting with its own? As the sun cast long, warm shadows through the bookstore windows, Sarah smiled, her heart light and expansive, knowing that her journey had led her not just to self-mastery, but to a profound capacity for love, both for herself and for the possibilities that lay ahead. Sarah Vance sits by the window of her sun-drenched apartment, a half-finished canvas on the easel beside her, its vibrant colors mirroring the rich tapestry of her life. Her eyes, filled with a serene wisdom and a quiet joy, gaze out at the bustling city below. You see her now, truly embodying the unfolding bloom. A woman who has not just survived, but thrived, seeing the intricate weave of her past struggles and present triumphs. Her life is a living testament to vibrant self-expression and profound contentment, a masterpiece of resilience. This final theme emphasizes lasting contentment, wisdom, and inner harmony, a gentle crescendo to her extraordinary journey. The scent of her favorite Earl Grey tea mingles with the subtle, earthy aroma of her oil paints, creating a comforting atmosphere that is uniquely her own. Her days are filled with the things that truly nourish her soul. The rhythmic brushstrokes on canvas, the engaging conversations with friends like Clara, the quiet satisfaction of her community art projects, which have brought beauty and connection to countless lives. She still occasionally hears from Mark, polite, distant exchanges, and she feels no bitterness, only a detached understanding of the path they both chose. This sense of peace, hard-won and deeply cherished, is her greatest triumph. She often reflects on the journey from feeling invisible in her own home to becoming the vibrant, seen woman she is today. It wasn't a sudden leap, but a gradual, courageous unfolding, fueled by small acts of self-reclamation and the unwavering belief in her own worth. The understanding that her voice mattered, that her desires were valid, and that her happiness was her own responsibility transformed her fundamentally. It's a profound observation that true liberation often comes not from external changes alone, but from an internal shift in perspective and self-belief. The human spirit's capacity for growth, even after profound emotional stagnation, is a beautiful and inspiring phenomenon. James, the literature professor, has become a cherished companion. Their connection is built on mutual respect, intellectual curiosity, and a genuine appreciation for each other's presence. There's no demand for performance, no subtle dismissals, just a quiet, comfortable joy in shared moments. They explore art galleries, discuss books, and simply enjoy long, meandering walks. It's a new kind of relationship, one where Sarah feels truly seen, truly heard, and truly valued. It's a unique, complex, and utterly unexpected emotional moment when she realizes that this gentle, reciprocal connection is precisely the kind of love she deserves, a testament to her journey of self-discovery. The soft jazz playing in the background seems to underscore the harmonious rhythm of her life. What truly defines a beautiful life in midlife? Is it the absence of pain or the courageous embrace of one's authentic self, allowing one's inner light to shine, creating a ripple effect of inspiration for others? As the sun sets, painting the sky in hues of soft pink and gold, Sarah sits by her window, a contented smile gracing her lips. She is the artist of her own life, and the masterpiece she has created is one of vibrant self-expression, lasting contentment, and profound inner harmony. She is the unfolding bloom in full, breathtaking glory. The soft evening light fills Sarah's apartment, casting a warm, peaceful glow over her. She closes her eyes for a moment, feeling the gentle warmth of the last sunbeams on her skin, a quiet whisper of contentment. Her hands rest calmly in her lap, no longer clutched with anxiety, but open, ready to receive the beauty that life now offers. The scent of her painting, still fresh, is a testament to the creative joy she now embraces daily. Remember that pervasive feeling of invisibility? It has completely vanished, replaced by a radiant sense of being truly seen, truly heard, truly alive. She is anchored in her own worth, a beacon of quiet strength, her spirit vibrant and free. Let her story wrap around you like a comforting blanket, a gentle reminder that every woman holds an incredible capacity for reinvention, for profound self-love, and for creating a life filled with authentic joy, no matter her age or what she has faced.